The sun was setting low, painting the fields in golden light, as Thomas Reed packed away his tools after another long day on the farm. At 54, his hands bore the scars of decades spent tilling the same soil his father once did. Life here was quiet, unchanging, and sometimes unbearably lonely. His world was small, bound by fences and harvests, shaped by the rhythm of nature and silence. Luxury was a word he'd never needed, and dreams, real dreams, had become distant echoes. Meanwhile, in a gleaming city tower miles away, Veronica Chase adjusted her blazer, slid into her luxury car, and pulled onto the winding country roads. She was 49, a self-made titan in real estate, known for her steely resolve and unrelenting ambition. She had risen from nothing, clawing her way to the top, closing million-dollar deals and building a name that commanded rooms. But today's negotiation had failed. The silence in her car felt heavier than usual. She hated losing. Then came the grinding sound. A puff of smoke curled from the hood of her Mercedes. The engine coughed, then died. No signal, no town for miles. And for the first time in years, Veronica Chase, powerhouse, mogul, invincible, felt stranded. She saw the farmhouse in the distance, the only structure in a sea of green. With resignation, she kicked off her stilettos, slipped them back on with a sigh, and started walking toward it. What choice did she have? Thomas opened the door to find a woman who looked like she had stepped out of a magazine. Sharp navy suit, subtle but expensive makeup, an air of someone who belonged anywhere but here. "My car broke down about a half-mile back," she said, her voice clipped. "May I use your phone?" He nodded, stepping aside. "Reception's not great, but you're welcome to try." Inside, Veronica was struck by the home's simplicity. Worn but spotless furniture, the smell of brewed coffee and old wood. She made a few failed calls, confirmed the tow wouldn't arrive until morning, then sat in awkward silence. "I can drive you to a motel in town," Thomas offered, handing her a cup of coffee. Something about his quiet kindness disarmed her. "Before that," she said, almost surprised by her own words, "would you mind showing me your farm? I've never seen one up close." He hesitated, then nodded. "There's not much to see, but sure." They walked under the evening sky, through rows of crops and fading sunlight. He pointed out the boundaries of his land, the place where his life began and never left. Eventually, they reached an old barn, its red paint chipped, its frame weathered by time. But when he slid open the heavy doors, the light shifted. Sunbeams filtered through the slats, revealing something unexpected. Inside was not just farming equipment. Inside were masterpieces. Handcrafted wooden furniture, tables with intricate inlays, chairs carved with elegance, shelves that looked like art. "You made these," she whispered, stunned. He shrugged. "Just a hobby." She turned to him, eyes wide. "No, this is talent." Thomas had never shown his work to anyone. It was what he did when the fields were quiet, when the nights were long, when he needed to feel something again. He never imagined it could matter to someone else. That evening, over a dinner of roasted vegetables and bread, they talked. She shared stories of conference rooms, backstabbing deals, and a loneliness success never cured. He spoke of his quiet life, his fear of dreaming too big, and the feeling that maybe his best years had already passed. "Why hide it all away?" she asked. "I never had the means," he said softly. "Or the belief." The next morning, before her car was towed, Veronica made him a proposition, not charity but partnership. She had space in her downtown building. She had contacts. He had vision. They could open a gallery. A real one. People needed to see what he could create. Thomas laughed at first. He didn't believe it. But something about the way she said it, like she truly saw him, made him pause. 3 months later, the lights of Reed and Chase Woodworks glowed on a quiet corner of the city. Under those lights, Thomas stood next to Veronica as visitors wandered the gallery, admiring the beauty he had once hidden in a dusty barn. He had never been to an opening night before, never worn a suit that fit, never imagined people would line up to see his work. And yet here they were, complimenting his tables, photographing his chairs, placing orders, speaking his name. And Veronica, for the first time in years, she wasn't just building someone else's dream. She was watching one unfold, watching someone discover not only his talent but his worth. They didn't fall in love overnight. It wasn't a storybook romance, but something grew between them, steady and honest. Not because they needed each other to survive, but because they made each other better. Because sometimes the most important people in your life arrive not in grand entrances, but in moments of inconvenience. Sometimes success means nothing until you share it. And sometimes the most meaningful journeys begin with a broken engine and an open door. Thomas learned that his value wasn't just in his labor, but in his legacy. And Veronica learned that the greatest victories are not always won in boardrooms, but in barns and in believing in someone else when they've forgotten how to believe in themselves. So when people ask how it all started, she smiles and says, "My car broke down." But the truth is, what really broke down that day was her wall, and what rose in its place was something extraordinary. If you've ever felt too small to matter or too far gone to dream again, remember this: you are always one unexpected detour away from rediscovering your worth. You are not too late, you are not too old. You are not too far behind. Sometimes all it takes is the courage to knock on a door or the courage to open one. Let that be your beginning.